Okay, thank you very much for that. Welcome everyone. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 5:29. We just come out of a closed session, so now we can go back into the regular order. There are opening remarks tonight with respect to National Volunteer Week, which is April 27th through May 3rd in Canada. So this year the volunteer theme is volunteers make waves, not making waves. It highlights the power, impact, and importance of individual collective volunteer efforts across Canada. Like a wave, volunteering is a movement building, and so is each volunteer's contribution toward creating impact in our communities. Each individual volunteer contribution, big or small, creates momentum and has the power to influence and inspire, joining a wave of positive change. During National Volunteer Week 2025, we come together to recognize and celebrate the importance of each and every volunteer across Canada and right here in Middlesex Centre. No matter how you contribute, sharing your time and talents as a volunteer makes our community stronger and more vibrant. And speaking of volunteers, we had a fabulous weekend here in Middlesex Centre. Thanks to the generosity of our residents, Middlesex Centre Fire Services booth tolls raised a record-breaking $33,703 for muscular dystrophy Canada over the Easter weekend. These funds will go to research and to the equipment required by those who suffer from this disorder. So big thank you to everyone who donated and especially to all the firefighters who volunteered their time to take part in this annual activity. So way to go, guys. Woo! Okay. All right. Okay, now to real business. There are no additions to the agenda this evening. I will look to members of council. Does anyone have any pecuniary interest to declare? And I don't see any hands. We have a number of delegations and presentations tonight. The first item is Bear Creek Drain Culvert 2025 consideration of engineer's report. And Mike Favas is here this evening and he will provide the engineer's report. So I'm going to turn my microphone off, Mike, and when you're ready, you can push it and present your report.
Good evening. This report was prepared in accordance with Section 78 of the Drainage Act for improvement or repair to the drain. There was a request to have a existing crossing, farm crossing for a property on the lower part of the drain to be replaced and made into a new crossing as part of the drain. The Bear Creek Drain is a fairly large watershed and encompasses a number of different concessions, basically from Van Eck over to Hyde Park Road, and is from where the drain is on Ivan Drive up north to the tip of 14 miles. So there's a fairly large watershed area upstream, including portions of Ilderton. And therefore, we had to do hydrology design, come up with some alternatives. We did review with the owner that was requesting the work, some alternatives. When we initially did it, we came up with a single span crossing. Would have been our recommendation. There are two existing single span bridges immediately downstream of where our work is. However, we were made aware that further downstream on Ivan Drive is a triple pipe crossing. And we were requested to investigate using a similar crossing to that to save cost. The costs were quite high for the single span structure. So we did look into that and come up with a solution for a triple pipe version of a new crossing. So it would be a three pipe round pipes, somewhat embedded underneath the design grade of the channel. To accommodate the flows, the laneway would be similar in width, maybe slightly wider where the actual existing farm bridge is. It's quite narrow on the actual crossing, but the platform on each side of that for the laneway would be similar. And we would need to put protection on the ends, riprap, usually shot rock and quarry stone to protect the ends. We would also be required to have the velocities pass, be able to pass fish at a certain design storm from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, as well as embed the culvert to have a gravel bottom rather than an exposed pipe, and have it function similar in nature to the level of design that would be of other structures in the area. So that is what we have proposed. And I think at that point, I'll stop and open up to questions.
Thank you for that report, Mike. I'll look to council members. Are there any questions on the report? Seeing none, are there members of the public who are here to ask questions on the drainage report this evening? If you'd like to come and use the microphone, I'm not quite sure how to talk. You'll have to take turns asking and answering. Okay.
So they look at you. So we are a upstream landowner as well as the immediately downstream landowner of this bridge. I guess our one question thanks. Looking at that triple pipe design that's existing on Ivan Drive that was put in 5 to 10 years ago, there are only 7-foot culverts compared to the 12 and the 2 10-footers that are proposed now. The surface or like the open area of that's like 110 square feet versus the 270 square feet of the proposed ones. And that lower drain or where that crosses Ivan, there's an extra 3,000 acres of drainage land coming through compared to the 6,000. So
yes, when you're looking at the design, there are several factors that affect the performance of a pipe culvert. One of the factors that is a large factor would be the height of the water on the downstream end of the culvert. And when you're looking at the triple pipe system downstream that crosses Ivan, the channel is very wide there, and the water levels in a storm event are quite low. Whereas where this structure is, the channel is much narrower and the water is confined and the water is much higher. So the water is not pushing through the culvert on pressure as easily as what it is downstream. As well, at the location downstream, the road elevation compared to the ditch elevation is significantly more. So the water can build up higher at the other structure compared to this new structure, so that when the water rises up against Ivan Drive downstream, it can create even more pressure and push even more water. So they perform better in the situation that they're at. Our situation does not allow us to do that for those reasons. The other thing is, and we are a little bit bigger design than that, but we do also need to consider the velocities of the water when they go through the pipe. I'm not sure what the municipality did at that time to be able to get approvals, or whether they did receive approvals from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans. But when we prepare reports through the Drainage Act, we have to do that. And as part of that process, we can't have velocities through the pipe go up to the point where there's a certain number that they provide that we have to accommodate to allow the fish passage. It's just a requirement of theirs. So there's a number of different factors that are at play. The other thing, like I said, that Ivan Drive is higher further down where the water can rise. Here, if we considered possibly trying to raise the laneway up as well, but Ivan Drive is lower too, to the point where if we raise the laneway too much, the water is going to fill up in front of the pipes and then start to affect the road. So, you could probably get a little bit smaller, but the problem is you're going to be making the velocities too high. And we've applied to the Department of Fisheries and Oceans for approval, and we're hoping to get the approval based on the velocities that we have. Our velocities are still higher than what the existing situation is, where the crossing is. Whether they knew about or whether they had any involvement with the stuff down at Ivan, I don't know that. My suspicion is that if they saw what was going on down at the other crossing on Ivan Drive, the pipes are actually perched. So they're sitting above the ditch bottom on the downstream side. It's great for flow, but it does not allow fish passage. And so they would have concerns if they saw, and I tried to get approved, a similar situation.
even though that one of those culverts was just replaced last year after a car hit it. And I guess it
Yep.
still doesn't matter that we have to follow higher
I-
standards.
Yeah, I have to follow the standards that are provided to me. That's the only thing I can indicate.
Is there anyone else here to speak to the drain? I don't see hands. Councillor, you don't have any additional questions? No. Okay, in that case, there is a motion before us. And that is the motion is that the council for the municipality of Middlesex Centre receives the Bear Creek Drain Culvert 2025 engineers report from Spree Associates dated March 21st, 2025, and authorizes the project to proceed. And that the Court of Remission will meet on May 21st, 2025. And further, that Councillor Arts, Councillor Shipley, and Deputy Mayor Brennan be appointed to sit as members of the Court of Revision, with Deputy Mayor Brennan being in the chair. Is there a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Burrs and Councillor Arts Shipley. Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, the next, thank you, Mike, for coming tonight, and we'll see you soon. Okay. Now we have the Middlesex Centre Roads Needs Study Overview. Dean Pettit of Stantec will be in attendance tonight to present the report of, there you on the Centre Road Needs Study. So I'm not, there you are. Okay, good. Was he virtual? Oh, he's leaving. Okay. So we'll just wait till he comes on. Can you hear us, Dean?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can clear us the bell. I'm going to turn off my mic, and when you're ready, go ahead with your presentation.
All right, excellent. Can everyone see my screen?
We can kind of see a shadow man.
Shadow man, yeah, sorry about that. I tested the camera earlier and it looked normal. I don't know why it's going like I'm in witness protection now.
Things are, here it comes, I think.
Okay. Perfect.
It's there. We can see what we have in our notes. Go ahead.
All right, excellent. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm here to present the 2024 Roads Needs Study. So just a quick agenda. So we'll go over some background information, the overall network condition, and then the budget analysis. But first, at Stantec, I'd like to have a quick safety moment for every presentation. So I know the ticks are out and about. All of our field workers are saying that they're seeing them all over the place. So if you ever do see a tick, it's best to remove the tick immediately using pointy tweezers or a tick key. I highly recommend the tick keys. They work well for my children and then all of our field workers as well. Always have them on hand. So we recommend you seal the tick in a container and place in a freezer. Wash the wound site with your hands with soap and water. Cleanse the bite with an antiseptic wipe. Take a photo of the bite site and then watch for expanding rash and lesions or unexplained fever, aches, or fatigue. And then follow the incident reporting procedures for your local health unit or workplace. So some quick background information. So the field collection was completed according to the Inventory Manual for Municipal Roads, 1991. Only the hard surface roads were rated. So gravel surface roads were excluded from data collection. We previously rated those roads, and there really was no change to the gravel road network from the last roads needs study. Generally, gravel roads can just be treated with general maintenance whenever distresses arise. So results of the field collection were uploaded to Stantec's Road Matrix pavement management software for analysis. As I mentioned, the data collection was completed using the Inventory Manual for Municipal Roads. This is the main standard for roads needs studies here in Ontario. Even though it was written in 1991, there's still a lot of good stuff in the Inventory Manual. It was initiated by MTO in the 70s to provide equitable funding subsidy to municipalities. Once the funding stopped, many municipalities discontinued the practice, but the concepts and principle are sound. It really was the first pavement management document, and a lot of the current pavement management techniques are based off of the Inventory Manual. So we used it mostly for the field collection. collecting the data, what's in the field. And then we used our Stantec Road Matrix pavement management software to do the actual analysis. So the data collection is a visual. Measurements were completed for surface and platform widths. And then the main thing was the condition. So as part of the assessment, we took a look at structural adequacy, which is also the condition of the roads. So any distresses you see on any of the roads, so cracking, alligator cracking, rutting, depressions, that sort of thing. We also collected the ride quality, so how bumpy is the road. So the bumpier the road, the quicker the road will deteriorate, because those bumps contribute added stresses to the road system. And then we also took a look at drainage, because drainage also is a big driver of deterioration. If you have poor drainage, the pavement's just not going to perform. And then after that, an overall pavement condition index, or PCI, was calculated for each section using the structural adequacy and ride quality for analysis and road matrix. Another big thing is the time of need. So a time of need is assigned to each category to help in decision-making progress. So structural adequacy, so the overall condition of the pavement, drainage, geometrics, surface width, surface type, and then capacity. So capacity is the number of vehicles that can be served comfortably. Luckily, the municipality doesn't really have any capacity issues. There's no major roads requiring additional lanes or whatnot. So time of need is a prediction until reconstruction is required. So now need 1 to 5 year need, 6 to 10 year need adequate. So now need would be something that in terms of structural adequacy would be a road that's completely destroyed. So something alligator cracking all over the place. 1 to 5 year need typically can be addressed with 2 lifts, mill and overlay, that sort of treatment. 6 to 10 year simple resurfacing, and then adequate would be general maintenance such as crack sealing, microsurfacing, that sort of thing. So some examples of the structural adequacy time and need. So now need up top left corner. You can see it's very poor condition. 1 to 5 years, you're starting to see some deterioration, some cracking in the wheel pass. Could use some further treatments. 6 to 10 years, so some minor distresses. These would be good for minor resurfacing to extend the service life. And then adequate is generally a pavement in pretty good condition. So for the ride ratings, basically a 10 is a perfectly smooth road. 7 to 9, you can get some bumps. Most of the roads fall within this category. 4 to 6, it's pretty much tough to even drive the road at the posted speed limit. I don't think there were any of those in the municipality's network. Usually it's got to be a pretty damaged road to have a ride rating in the 4 to 6 range. And then 1 to 3 is pretty much impassable. The type of road you wouldn't even want to travel down or have to turn around. And then drainage ratings, 15 perfect ditches. You can see the OPSD drawing. So essentially your ditch should be 500 millimeters below the bottom of the pavement structure. And then 12 to 14, just minor issues. So 14 could be like an area where there's a spot drainage issue where it's not good enough. Something like a 12 would be little ditching. Some of those rural roads sometimes have very little ditching, depending on how old the road is and when it was constructed. And then essentially 1 to 7, you're getting down to where you're having flooding issues. So anything below a 12 means that at some point there is a flood. So anything below a 12 has to be information provided by the municipality. And they do provide us that. We asked at the start of the project, and they kind of tell us which roads have had flooding issues in the past, and we flag those for the lower drainage ratings. Overall network condition. So the goal of the road study was to help provide the following information to help develop appropriate rehabilitation programs. So network breakdown, network condition, network rehabilitation requirements, rehabilitation timing, and rehabilitation costs. So the network breakdown, so network by pavement type. So 45% of the network is gravel. approximately 36% low-class bituminous or surface-treated roads, and 19% high-class bituminous or hot mix asphalt roads. Then we have network by roadside environment, with 88% being rural, 8% being urban, and 4% being semi-urban. So semi-urban would be something with a rural cross section, so no curbs, no gutters, no storm sewer, but in more of an urban type of environment. So more like some of those older subdivision type things. Overall, the network's in really good condition at 72.8. 72% of the roads were adequate. 8% in the 1 to 5 year range, 6 to 10%, or 16% in the 6 to 10 year range, and 3% in the now. So this is actually a really good breakdown for a network. We see a lot of other networks in the 60s, mid 60s, but 72% is a very good target for PCI. So then we went through and took a look at all the network critical deficiencies. So surface type deficiency. So this is when you have a gravel road that's seen enough traffic that it should be upgraded to a surface treated road. And then same thing with surface treated hot mix asphalt. So it's all based on your average annual daily traffic and when you should be upgrading these roads to service your constituents. Surface width deficiency. So that's when pavement width is not sufficient for the amount of traffic it sees. So the higher the traffic, the wider the pavement width should be. And the lower the traffic, the lower the requirements. Structural adequacy deficiencies, that's any sections with the structural adequacy in the now need, so in the reconstruction phase of the life cycle. Geometric deficiency would be inadequate vertical or horizontal curves or stopping site distances. And drainage deficiencies would be anything that has temporary flooding. So anything below that 12 that I mentioned earlier. So we went through and we assigned a cost for upgrading all these deficiencies. So the first line item, multiple deficiencies. So this is a mixture of sections that may have a surface type deficiency and a structural adequacy deficiency, that kind of thing. So if there's multiple deficiencies, we put them in that category. Surface type deficiencies now need. So that is any section where the traffic is triggers the upgrading from, say, gravel road to surface treated or surface treated to hot mix asphalt. Then we took a look at the 1 to 5 year needs. So these are based on a 2% increase in traffic. These would be triggering a surface type deficiency in 1 to 5 years. And same with the 6 to 10 year needs. We also have the surface width deficiency, structural adequacy deficiencies, geometric, and drainage. The one thing you don't see on here is capacity, and that's because there are no roads that really require extra lanes to address any capacity concerns. But the total cost to address all of these deficiencies is about $29 million. So budget analysis. So modern pavement management techniques, prioritization should not be based on repairing the roads in worse condition. It's much cheaper and much more efficient to keep roads that are in good condition, keep them in good condition, maintain those roads. So we do that with resurfacing. Definitely takes buy-in from council and everyone, because sometimes you get questions from the community. Why are you repaving this perfectly good road when this road over here is a complete disaster? And that's just trying to keep the overall network at the best possible condition. So you can see how the change in cost, if you let the pavement deteriorate, greatly increases as it goes down the deterioration curve. So this just kind of shows that. So you see structural adequacy at the bottom. As it decreases, you get more intensive rehabilitation requirements. So when it's in good condition, you're looking at crack sealing and microsurfacing to kind of maintain it as best as possible. Then it gets into that 6 to 10 year range. You're looking at resurfacing with 1 lift, 1 to 5 year range resurfacing with 2 lifts, And when it's a now need, you're looking at either a reconstruction or pulverize and resurface. Essentially, the asphalt would be no longer salvageable. So this is kind of how the system works. So we have a decreasing your PCI, and as it decreases along the life, certain maintenance or rehabilitation techniques get triggered when it hits a certain PCI, and that's how it calculates. And then the area under the curve, so when you return the pavement condition to a good condition, so from approximately the 5 here up to the 10, the area under the curve is your net benefit. So what we find is you get a lot more bang for your buck when you do those early maintenance and resurfacing techniques as opposed to just waiting for it to deteriorate to the full reconstruction. Budget analysis results. So this is a nice chart. So we ran various scenarios. So we did a do nothing scenario. So if we stop funding our road network, what would happen to the road network? In that case, it goes from the current 72 all the way down to a 36 within 10 years. Really shows the importance of staying top of your pavement network. Total to maintain the existing. So we'd be looking at a 10-year funding level of 27.6 million, and that would keep your pavement network at about the 72. So the total target for the municipality is a 70. If we implemented that budget, you'd be looking at a 10-year funding level of 25.2 million, and that would result in an overall network of 70. Total maintained PCI of 60. This was just something they asked to run just to see what it would be. 18.7 million over 10 years would get you to a overall score of 60 after 10 years. And then unlimited funding, so 30.2 million over 10 years. So this number is a little bit deceiving. So people think unlimited funding, you just spend money as required, but really a lot of that money would be allocated in the first year to get all your network up. So you see a bump in the red line up in 2025, and then it's a lot cheaper to maintain it at that good condition after you pump in that initial funding. And then 2024 current funding level, so that's 17.3 million over 10 years. Sees the network deteriorate from 72 down to about 55. I guess we'll open up to any questions.
Thank you kindly for that presentation. Look to council, then questions on the report. So I see Councillor Cates first.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. I'm just wondering if you could clarify something for me on the rehabilitation timing. I understand the modern pavement management philosophy is to keep the good roads in good condition. But when you say prioritization should not be based on repairing the roads in the worst condition, reading this makes me think that you're meaning just leave the bad roads and leave them there and just do your pavement management on the good roads. I'm assuming that's not what you mean. So I'm just wondering, in this scenario, what do you do with the roads that are in really bad condition?
Yes, excellent question. Yeah, sorry, I should have clarified that a little better. So there is a minimum acceptable level. So basically that would be the equivalent of a now need probably in the PCI range of about 35 out of 100. So once it hits that minimum acceptable, that's when you would look to reconstruct. It is not efficient. So I think in some of the years we do recommend some reconstructions, and that pretty much takes up all of the hot mix asphalt budgets. And then, shoot, what was I going to say? Yeah, so there is that minimum PQI, and that does kind of equate to where you also have to manage liability, right? If the pavement's getting too bad of a condition, then the municipality could be liable for potential accidents caused by paving conditions. That's also why we put in that minimum acceptable PCI rating.
I have Councillor Arts.
Excuse me.
through your Madam Mayor to Dean, this is just the studies for the surface road, like bridges and culverts, they're on top of this again, correct? Like you can easily
Correct.
double the cost of fixing our roads, like $1 million doesn't do much in a year for bridges and culverts, does it?
No. And also a lot of times we see these reconstructions, it's also you're looking at replacing old water mains and whatnot in the middle of town. So that would trigger a reconstruction of the entire road, and the road is almost seen as a side piece to that overall project. So a lot of these times, these older roads, you get the asphalt replacement in town, and then I think that's all it's in our budget scenario, our decision tree scenarios. And then the full reconstruction would wait until you're actually addressing all those underground utilities. But yes, it doesn't account for bridges and culverts.
Okay, is there anyone else? I don't see any hands. So Dean, thank you very much for bringing that report. There's actually quite a lot to digest in terms of strategy and how we want to move forward and balance that. Obviously, 7.3 million isn't coming close to some of the numbers in that 10-year funding total there. So again, thank you very much. And it's always good to hear where we're standing. Thanks.
Yep, feel free to reach out if you have any questions. You can reach out to Andrew Geeson at the municipality, and he can contact me, and I'm happy to answer any more questions or help clarify anything.
Okay, appreciate that. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any more delegations or presentations on that. So number 5, adoption of the minutes. We have the minutes of the April 9th meeting, and the motion before us is that the minutes of that meeting of council be adopted as printed. Councillor Cates and Councillor Burrs, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. We have the consented agenda, which is up next. There are a number of items there. I'll just look to council. Is there anything? I see hands. Items? Councillor Burrs, item which? Can you please put your microphone on?
6-1, just to talk about it.
Okay, I think I'll just work my way around then. But just before we start, I just want to give a comment on 6.1, and for the benefit of the public, that the item is the report on the strong mayor powers, which you've probably heard about in the news recently. So a number of people have asked where I stand on it or what I think about it, and I've responded for the newspapers and so forth. Basically, my comments were that as a council, we're already committed to the provincial priorities of building more homes and infrastructure. That is the roads and water systems that we've just been listening to. And all of that supports housing. And we want to ensure that the housing options for everyone who wishes to call Middlesex Centre home are there for young people who are starting out, as well as retirees who may be looking to downsize. So when saying, is there a need for strong mayors' powers in our municipalities? I think when we look at that context, my answer is not at this time. And the other part of it is, of course, my feeling is, and our feeling, I think in general, is that the elected councillors in our wards have run and been elected by the public, yourselves, who are also attending here tonight and listening online. And I personally believe that our councillors are well acquainted with and familiar with the issues and the residents that live in the wards they represent. And I strongly believe that it is incumbent upon me as the mayor to respect our voters and our citizens and residents and work together with all of council to make sure that we make the best possible decisions for our municipality. So really, if I just conclude this, while this designation gives a certain kind of a power to the mayor, so new powers to make decisions and so forth, I believe that we here at Middlesex Centre will still follow our current council voting procedures. I don't envision any need personally to use these added powers that are based on a completely different kind of a thinking than what we have in place here, which is based on our processes and systems. And that includes everyone around the horseshoe, as well as everyone who provides us with advice. So that's my 2 cents worth. I don't want to go off the down the rabbit hole here. If you like to start, Councillor Burris, I'm gonna let you work around and that way I can turn off my mic.
Okay, just for clarification, the Minister of Municipal Affairs has decided that so many municipalities will given strong mayor powers. Those are granted to us now. Is it up to, just for clarification, is it up to you to decide whether you're going to use it and when? Or is it like it's overhanging, it's in place? Can you just talk, is your previous talk what you're planning on? We'll work with council, but you at any time could say, I'm invoking my strong mayor powers on this item. Can you clarify?
I'd call that by Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing, right? Yeah, you've got it, you've nailed it. That's exactly right. I don't need to look to council to make a decision on something. I would use the adjective arbitrarily decide to do whatever I think is best.
Just to follow up, this is common practice everywhere in America. They all have strong power. They create the budgets, they hire people, all of that. So it's not like it isn't, this is a new thing. I'll let it go with that.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Well said. I did make something here that I wanted to say. I thought about this and researched this quite a bit. I think that it's sad that we don't have a choice about this. In my experience, I find we make better decisions together. We have a great council and great staff, and we work very well together as a team. We go through the democratic process and swear an oath of office as we each are voted in to represent our wards and the greater good of the municipality. And now suddenly we receive a letter that we have no choice but to accept the strong mayor powers decision. The good news in this today is that I more than 100% have faith and trust in our mayor and don't anticipate anything outside of what we as council think and feel on issues.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I realize that there's dysfunctional cities and municipalities out there. And I truly feel sorry for the good people that got to deal with idiots. But I think Middlesex Center, we're in a good place. And I trust our current mayor that will stay in that good place. So that's my 2 cents worth. Thanks.
In that event, the deputy, which item was it again?
6.3 and
Annual appointment. Okay, start with 6.3 then.
So I just asked our treasurer if she'd just run briefly through our annual repayment limit for 2025, just so everybody has a good update and understanding of it all.
So through you, Mayor DeVete, the report in front of you is the annual repayment limit for 2025. This is an amount that is calculated by the province and provided to us from the ministry. This amount they determine based on our financial information return, and they do this for all the municipalities within the province. It is based on 25% of our net revenues. The net revenue amount is a specific amount that's outlined in the attached documents. Of that, they calculate that 25% of that can be used for debt payments. And then it outlines where the municipality currently is at in the room that we have to add more debt payments. At this time, the report does outline where the municipality is currently sitting, and we have 5.72% of the 25% limit that is being used. That is our current amount. So the amount provided from the ministry, as I had mentioned, is based on our 2023 financial information return. And it is the municipality's responsibility, the municipal treasurer, to update this annual repayment limit every time council makes a decision that could result in any borrowing. So the majority of the time you will see this updated annual repayment limit with respect to items within the budget, if debt is being proposed, as well as any drainage bylaws. So when there is a new drain construction that is happening, this is updated as the municipality may enter into debt for the residents that are on that drain. So those are included as well. And so this is a document that you probably have seen multiple times. And if you had any questions, I hope that answered it. But at this time, I will open it to the floor for any questions if you have any on this.
Just a follow up, Madam Mayor. So at this point in time, we're well below that 25%, and I believe this council has indicated that we don't want to go any higher than 17% anyways. But so we do have some room there if, for instance, we decided we were going to put an extra $1 million into roads to try to get that under control or something like that. We would have the capacity to do something like that.
So through Mayor DeVete, at this time, based on the information that council has, yes, we do have some room. However, we are currently working on our long-range financial plans for our tax base, our water, our wastewater, and our stormwater. And as part of those plans, we are bringing to council in early June to discuss the financial, like the long-term financial plan for about 5 to 10 years. And those will discuss rate increases for water, wastewater, and stormwater, as well as a tax levy increase each year in order to afford the projects that are outlined within our asset management plan, our development charge study, and within some of our master studies as well. So I would caution to make any decisions tonight with respect to outlining any new debt projects. We are working on finalizing those numbers, but based on the projections we're looking at, we will need to use debt borrowing to fund many of our growth projects coming forward.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't indicating we're going to do that tonight, Tiff. It was just a comment. The other thing I'd like just a brief update on is, which ties into our funding things, is how our planning summary report is indicating our growth and that in the township and how that's going to affect us. Stephanie, I guess.
Can you repeat the question, just so I make sure?
I just want to know, like, how's our growth going? Are we starting to rebound under our planning? And, as things go forward and we've got capital projects, DCs help pay for a lot of this. And if our growth isn't there, then our DCs aren't there. So I'm just wondering how things are looking this year.
I think generally, I know on the building side, so it's not always perceived as there's a big difference, but there really is a difference on the kind of the planning applications and then when we get into the building. So you did hear previously that our building numbers were down fairly significantly this year, but our planning numbers are still maintaining pretty strong. And we are also continuing to see some more larger projects come forward this year. So we are going to see some larger subdivision files coming forward. So I think on that front, I think we are going to see some strong growth in the next few years.
Is there anything else for anyone? Okay, I think that's it then. We do have a motion before us with respect to the consent agenda, and that is that consent items 6.1 through 6.66 listed on the April 23rd, 2025 agenda be adopted as recommended. Councillor Burrs, thank you. Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, moving on now to, oopsie daisy. Yep, oh, that's right, staff reports. We don't have any tonight, but we do have public meetings, and that's the next item. We need a motion to go into that session. So the motion is that council move into public meetings at 6:13 p.m. pursuant to the Planning Act, RSO 1990 as amended, to consider the applications listed on the April 23rd, 2025 council agenda. Mover, please. Councillor Cates and Councillor Coles, all in favor? And that's carried. Just before we get started, I've got some remarks just to clarify how this process will work. Members of the public that wish to receive further notification on any of the applications that are being considered today, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.ca requesting further notifications. Please be advised that the comments expressed in written material presented are a matter of public record. If you have questions on any of the applications being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. There is an order to follow, and it's the same for each public meeting as follows. So the chair, that is myself, I will ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and to present their staff report. Then the applicant or their agent will have an opportunity to speak to their application. Then the public who have registered will be asked for their comments, and that's that 5-minute rule that I referred to earlier. Members of the public who are present and wish to delegate will be called on for additional comments. Council may then ask they may ask questions of the applicant, delegates, and/or staff, and then the chair will consider motions with regard to those applications that are on the agenda tonight. So having said that, then the first item up tonight is an official plan amendment filed by Oakview Land Use Planning, care of Robert Brown, on behalf of Barbara Ferrari and Gabriel Ferrari. So Marian Francis Ramos Cabal is our county planner who is presenting the planning report tonight. When you're ready, go ahead, Marian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to Council. So the purpose of this report is to provide a recommendation to Council regarding official plan amendment or OPA 67 for 5606 West Alberta. The purpose of the official plan amendment requests to establish a special policy area to permit an on-farm diversified use in the form of a contractor's yard for the hydrovac business. And this also includes the a slurry processing plant, material of storage areas, equipment storage and parking, as well as any necessary berms, screening, or landscaping. The effect of this application would permit the hydrovac business to operate from the site and also introduce a slurry processing plant that would sort through soil and separate gravel, sand, and clay on this property. The water that is used on this as part of the slurry processing plant, will be reused by the hydrovac vehicles in a closed loop system. And for more information and more details, the applicant did provide a planning justification report as well as a site plan that was attached to my staff report, which details their operations. Overall, the operations would be limited to approximately 5 acres, and this excludes the dwelling on the property as well as the farmed areas. So the lands are located just south of the community of Delaware. They're located on the east side of West Alberta, just north of Decker Drive. The entire property is approximately 25.5 acres and has frontage on West Alberta. Surrounding land uses are primarily agricultural, with rural residences within proximity. This property does contain a single detached dwelling as well as outbuildings and the existing contracting business, which operates from the property, which uses the yard, buildings, and storage for and stockpiling as well. Approximately 8.2 acres of the 25.5 acres is not farmed and is used specifically for these uses that I previously mentioned, and the balance of the land is used for cash crops. So the proposed use also requires the business to obtain environmental compliance approval or an ECA from the Ministry of the Environment for the disposal of waste on this land. The applicant does have an ECA for the existing hydrovac business to haul waste. However, it does not include the disposal of it on this site. So this application was circulated to staff, agencies, as well as property owners within proximity to the property. At the time of writing this report, we received a number of comments from members of the public who have shared concerns, and these comments have been shared with members of council. Primarily, the concerns relate to the impact of the proposed use on agricultural land, on livestock, on the natural environment due to contamination, as well as contamination of the drinking water source in the area, impact on the residential uses, as well as sensitive land uses in the surrounding area, as well as impact on drainage and stormwater management. There's also concern that the proposed use is truly a waste facility not suitable for this area, and that the increased truck traffic in the area is not suitable for the existing road network. Staff reviewed the application and requested that additional information be received related to a future site plan application, assuming that if this application is approved, there would be another rezoning application as well. Public Works and Engineering provided comments related to the road network, specifically the reduced road limit during the late winter and early spring months that would preclude any heavy trucks from using West Elburn. If the development is approved, the operation would be restricted from using the road during this time, or the applicant would need to reconstruct the road to municipal standards. Finally, MECP is aware of this proposal, and they have been working with the proponent over the last year or so. They don't have any specific concerns with proposed development. However, they are aware that the applicant does need to apply for an ECA to address the sewage, as well as waste and monitoring requirements that would be included on site. And at the time of writing my report and leading up to this meeting, I did not receive any comments from OMAFRA or the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So the lands are designated and zoned agriculture, which seeks to preserve agricultural uses and lands for the long term and limit the amount of incompatible and non-agricultural uses in the area. The current Middlesex Center official plan does not permit any new industrial or commercial uses within the agricultural area. However, the provincial planning statement and the county official plan do provide some direction to consider these proposals. Specifically, this includes the opportunities to permit an on-farm diversified use on a property or a non-agricultural use within a prime agricultural area. So as I mentioned previously, the applicant had requested an on-farm diversified use on this property. Therefore, it is subject to 5 criteria that have been established by the province. This specifically includes that the use is located on a farm, that it is secondary to the principal agricultural use, that it is limited in area, that the use can be considered home industry or a value-added production, and that it is compatible with surrounding agricultural operations. So in my review against this criteria, I did not find that the proposal met all 5 criteria, since the property is undersized and not typical of a viable farming operation, nor is it evident that the farmland is part of a larger farming operation. The use appears to be the principal use on this property, and this is relative to the farmed area, and again, it is not part of the larger farming operation. The use exceeds the standard threshold of 2% of the total area, and this is inclusive of all buildings, infrastructure, parking, and storage on the site. The use is truly considered an industrial use. It does not produce any value-added agricultural products, nor is it related to agricultural uses. And as mentioned, MECP classifies this proposal as waste disposal or processing, which further demonstrates that this is an industrial use. And finally, staff have concerns with the compatibility with the surrounding agricultural operations due to the increase in noise, odor, dust, impact on groundwater, stormwater, and wastewater, as well as the storage of soil on site and the byproducts from it. And so again, staff do consider this proposal to be truly industrial in nature, and we have requested that this be directed to a settlement area where there's capacity and infrastructure available to accommodate this use, but also mitigate the impacts on sensitive land uses. So based on our review of the applicable PPS and county policies, staff do not consider this to be an on-farm diversified use. We did take the liberty to evaluate the proposal as a non-agricultural use in a prime agricultural area. So that's something that's defined within the provincial planning statement. There are specific criteria that we can use to evaluate it. And this is truly just demonstrative of scale of proposal. So specifically, the land does not comprise any specialty crop area. The proposed use complies with MDS. There is an identified need within the planning horizon for additional land to accommodate this use. There are alternative locations that have been evaluated, and that any impacts from any non-agricultural uses need to be minimized or mitigated through an agricultural impact assessment or equivalent study. So staff acknowledge that the use does not comprise any specialty crop area within Middlesex Center and appears to meet the MDS setbacks. However, it has been appropriately explained, and that additional land in the planning horizon is not needed within Middlesex Center for this type of use. And we specifically highlight the amount of land that the official plan update has included for industrial uses within Delaware, as well as other settlement areas. And the addition of more land for this type of industrial use is not contemplated. Staff are not aware of any alternative locations that have been evaluated by the applicant. However, it is acknowledged that the proposal will use portion of the farm that is not currently used for farming purposes. And since the evaluation under the non-agricultural use criteria was suggested by staff, the applicant did not provide an agricultural impact assessment as part of the application. But as a result of our review of these policies, staff did not consider that this proposal demonstrates a non-agricultural use within a prime agricultural area. The county official plan also contains additional criteria for each on-farm diversified use and a non-agricultural use within a prime agricultural area. And this is contemplated complements the criteria within the PPS. Again, our evaluation of these additional criteria is not demonstrated by the proposal. And staff also draw attention to the traffic on West Alberta as well. We identified that there are potential conflicts with agricultural equipment, horse riders, cyclists, as well as pedestrians. There's also a concern that still needs to be evaluated with regard to the proposed development on wastewater and drainage in the area and how the stockpiling of soil and any of the materials and byproducts will impact any groundwater. And at this time, consultation with the neighboring First Nations communities has not been undertaken by the proponent. Their involvement is imperative due to the potential impacts on groundwater as well as the natural environment. So in summary, staff cannot consider this use to be an on-farm diversified use nor an non-agricultural use in a prime agricultural area. And finally, we also looked at other opportunities to consider a proposal like this, and we did look at the PPS, which specifically has a section for waste management systems. A waste management system which includes recycling facilities, transfer stations, and processing sites, can be considered as part of infrastructure or as a major facility. Staff consider that this section of the PPS really contemplates long-range planning by municipality as they're looking at waste management for your standard solid waste as well as recycling. And it's not truly applicable to this type of development. So as a result of the analysis and our consultation with agencies and the public, staff recommend that the application be refused for the reasons that I previously mentioned, since the application is not consistent with the PPS and not in conformity with the county official plan. Thank you.
And thank you for that report, Marian. As I indicated before, there's an order. Next up, we have the applicant or their agent. Is someone here to speak to that? If you'd like to come forward and take a seat at the table to make your presentation. So mine's red right now. I'm going to push the button. If you push yours, it'll come on and mine will go off.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Council. I am here speaking on behalf of my client, Ferrari Hydrovac. They are in the audience and can certainly supplement any information that comes up from Council or the public. I'll start off by basically saying, obviously, we were.
Could you just give your name?
Oh, certainly. Robert Brown.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Obviously, we were a bit surprised by the recommendation of refusal. We had pre-consulted with the municipality with the idea of this being a non-farm diversified use. That was not necessarily my first inkling of this. I leaned more towards a non-agricultural use, as the planner had mentioned, and they have assessed that. But I would absolutely agree that this is not a non-farm diversified use. This is a non-agricultural use in an agricultural area and would generally be assessed as such. It's also understood that, through the assessment process and through the review process that and input from neighbors that the final recommendations may change and that ultimately the final decision is up to council. I want to try to hopefully briefly go through this and kind of explain the operation in a bit more detail, simply by addressing some of the comments that were received from the neighbors that I've reviewed in detail and we've reviewed with my client. The issue of increased traffic, certainly with any business, there will be added traffic on the road. It's understood, obviously, that during a certain time of the year there is a half load limit These are commercial trucks like any other trucks and have to abide by that, or obviously suffer the wrath of either the local municipality or the Ministry of Transportation, or both, for exceeding those weight limits. In terms of road safety and speed, that is a matter of responsibility for the owner to educate their staff and monitor that staff are respecting the road and the other road users, including both farm and non-farm traffic that's on the road. There was mention about dumping of waste in the neighborhood. I think one of the key takeaways for both council and the public here is that the use of the word waste in this particular case primarily comes from the classification from the Ministry of the Environment through the ECA. The word waste obviously conjures up a bunch of different images. This is not waste. This is material that is accessed from a job site and transported here to essentially naturally dry out and then potentially be reused as fill in other job sites. The intent of adding a processing facility here is to take what is essentially a handful of liquid mud and turn it back into its usable components, to separate out and clean the water, to reuse the gravel and any other aggregate that's in it, and what little waste that might be contained in it. Quite often, if you've ever dug in your backyard or anywhere near a road, you might dig up a pop can, you might dig up old chip wrappers, you might dig up things that somebody tossed away many, many years ago. Those things are obviously sorted out and put into the normal waste stream. They're not kept on the site. So the intent of the business and the processing is to better utilize and recycle. And I know that was the planner mentioned that being one of the assessment criteria. So I would very much say that is more so what this is about in terms of the processing, is to take what is essentially being put on the site, allowed to dry and then reused as fill, to actually increase the value of that by separating it into its individual components. The other concern, obviously, I'm sure people have seen hydro truck or hydrovac trucks used during sewer repair. This is something that's commonly done by municipalities. Sewer main breaks or sewer repairs require that hydrovacs attend the site and relocate the waste. My client is not licensed to haul sanitary sewer waste. This is something that's done separately. My client even indicated they don't empty their own septic system on the tank or on the property. They hire a licensed sanitary sewer waste disposer. If for some reason they come across sewer waste, then the load has to be transported to a licensed treatment facility. It is not brought to this site as they are not licensed to process it on there. They have to take it to a proper facility to do so. There's a concern about the loss of farmland. I share that. I've spent 25 years in land use planning, and most of the activities that I have undertaken have been in the farm community. I'm also from a farm myself, so I certainly understand the importance of safeguarding farmland. From reviewing overhead aerial photographs of this site over several years, there has been sort of a non-farmed area on the property that has varied over time. Some years it's been more, some years it's been less. My client is doing wants to reduce obviously the footprint of this site and being able to bring the product, the liquid soil to the property and recycle it and then allow them to use it on other sites would help to maintain the current footprint and potentially reduce it moving forward. On the environmental impact side, my client undertook at their own expense soil testing on the site, and the results of that were provided to the municipality. There was no contamination found on the site, either in the product on the site or in the surface water that's on the site that drains out of the material. The processing plant itself will actually further reduce the likelihood of this occurring because the operation requires a separate ECA from the Ministry of the Environment. It's also important to know that, and I know obviously there's some concern based on the comments, how does the applicant know that the soil that they're removing from a particular job site is not contaminated? Well, that's a very easy question to answer. Each of those job sites require that the contractor that has hired them tests the soil on that site to ensure that there is no contamination, whether it be fuel or oil or any type of contamination that's on the site has to be addressed. If it's identified, my client has the opportunity to simply refuse to do the work because the soil is contaminated, or if it is contaminated, those soils have to be removed and transported to, again, a licensed facility that's designed to do that. They are not transported to this site on West Delborn Road. Noise pollution, I have been on the site. Obviously, at certain times of the day, there is machinery moving on the site. The new processing facility is electric with the hope that that will reduce noise. This also has to go through a site plan approval process and zoning. And through both of those mechanisms, there could be safeguards put in place in the form of berming and noise limitation to help safeguard the ongoing enjoyment of the surrounding neighbors and not impact on their day-to-day lives or impact on the surrounding agricultural operations. Currently, the liquid soil from the operation is deposited on the site and, as I mentioned, allowed to naturally dry. Again, the intent of the new processing plant is to separate out those materials and have them available on site to be either transported back to the existing job site or used on a new job site, either to prep the site or to backfill or to use them as clean aggregate. Once the water from the process is filtered, it can then go back into, along with stormwater itself, can actually go back into the trucks and be used in the hydrovac process. If anybody's familiar with hydrovac, that's the hydro part of it. They use high pressure water to break up the soil, and then it's removed through a vacuum process. So that's how we end up with liquid soil. That water is then put through a process that cleans it, removes all of the solids out of it, and makes it reusable in the process. And as Marion referred to, this would be then a closed loop system. We do not use a large quantity of water on the site. The water on the site would be reclaimed from the process. As I mentioned, the process is, or the operation will be subject to site plan control moving forward. And any issues such as dust, noise, the look of the berms was a concern, the road condition or concerns at the entrance, and stormwater management would be a requirement to address any drainage concerns. Again, I'll reinforce that this is not a waste disposal site and that not all materials that the business is licensed to handle or haul would be able to be dealt with on this site. Materials reclaimed from the process of the slurry include gravel, sand, clay, larger stones, all of which are sorted and into more usable materials by the business, and the water is recycled. And lastly, there was a concern about, I guess, burning an odor on the site. Burning, this is a rural property. I'm sure there's one or two people in this room that have a burn barrel, and that's effectively what is being seen is that they have a container that they use to burn trash like many other folks do. We did on our farm. It may not be the best approach and it may not even be permitted, but certainly it's not something where we're burning waste associated with the hydrovac, the wet soil that's coming onto the site. And in terms of the odor, again, I've been to the site. It smells like when they're moving dirt, it smells like dirt. I was not privy to any odors. I've driven around the site. I do know that there's a number of horse folks in the area, and certainly that's probably one of the least objectionable livestock out in the country. But it smelled like the country when I visited the site on a couple of different occasions. So unless there's questions from council or the public, that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Council is at the end of the cycle, so don't go away. I mean, you can take a seat but that'll come after we've heard everybody's comments. Thank you. Okay, the next group on the agenda is the public who have registered, will be asked for their comments. I repeat, 5 minutes. Sometimes it helps not to reiterate things people have said before if you've got a lot you want to cover. And I do have Janet Claremont is registered. You're up if you would like to take the mic there. I'll turn mine off, and when you're ready.
Pardon me? All right, yes. Good evening. My name is Janet Claremont, and I live approximately 1 kilometer south of the proposed slurry processing plant on West Elborn. There's a number of neighbors that are here tonight that are also opposed to the application. I just wonder if it might be helpful if they could raise their hands, because I know there's a few different applications tonight. So I thank everybody for coming. I did file a letter with the clerk that had some cases attached from the Ontario Land Tribunal. And I also dropped off a petition with 91 signatures from neighbors that are opposed to this application. And those are only the neighbors that we were able to get to. The main concerns when talking to the neighbors about this proposed plant was the environmental impact, the impact on our water table, the traffic, the noise, the smell. The definition, I wanted to just speak briefly about the definition of on-farm diversified use, because that's what this application is for. Either it fits the definition or it doesn't. And we don't have to guess or reinvent the wheel. We've got your planner's report, which we all agree with. We have guidelines and principles from the province and the municipality and county's own official plan. We have case law from the Ontario Land Tribunal that have already defined and interpreted uses that fit on-farm diversified use and non-agricultural uses. And in the cases that I've included, the tribunal denied applications for businesses that were no as environmentally harmful and invasive as this proposal. The provincial planning statement defines on-farm diversified use as uses that are secondary to the principal agricultural use of the property. That's the one criteria that I'm going to focus on because I think that's the one that's the most relevant. It needs to be an extension of the existing agricultural use. And even in the most broadest and generous of terms, it just doesn't fit. That's because it's not secondary to the existing farming use. And if you look at the aerial images of the property, it's clear that this plant is the primary use and the cash crops of farming is a secondary use. But irrespective of that, it's industrial, commercial, no matter how you look at it. It's not farming use, has nothing to do with it. And it doesn't belong in an agricultural neighborhood. So I'll briefly touch on the 5 cases from the tribunal that I included in my letter, because I think they're helpful. And the most comparable case to this application is Greenwood versus Oromodonte. That's at tab 1. And it's a 2001 case, and it was an application to permit an excavation company to operate their business and store their equipment on their property, not to excavate their property, but just to store their equipment. The proposed use would have taken up about 1 hectare of the farmland, so a lot less land than this applicant. And similar to our situation, they were operating for some time without proper zoning. And the tribunal was critical of the applicant for asking for forgiveness rather than permission. And that's exactly what's happening here. You read in the letter submitted by the neighbors, and you'll hear from some tonight, that the applicant has been trucking dump loads of soil, burning, yes, burning, and not in a barrel, and building up bins for the last 2 years. And now they're coming to council, essentially asking for forgiveness when they should have asked for permission from the outset. That kind of defiance and disregard for the rules should not be rewarded by approving this application retroactively. Tab 2, there was another case of Mayor versus Tane Center. This was an application for operation of a trucking terminal on agricultural land. Again, it was found not to be on farm diversified use. It was inconsistent with the guidelines. Tab 3, this was a case in the Kawartha Lakes, and there was an application to permit a trailer sales and storage business as an on-farm diversified use. Again, the size of the proposed use was only 2,500 square meters. It was denied because it did not provide any agricultural benefit and could operate independently from the farm. So it had nothing to do with the farm. Tab 4 was a Kingsville case, and it was an application to allow an automobile repair business as a non-agricultural use. And the Ontario Municipal Board denied the application, noting there was sufficient commercial and industrial land available for this type of business nearby, and there was no need for agricultural land to be sacrificed for it. The last case, wrap it up, please, Honey. If you could wrap up, please. Yes, this is the last case. The tribunal denied an application for non-agricultural use to permit a cemetery. And again, the tribunal found that it wasn't prepared to sacrifice farmland, and the applicants failed to show that there was any other land that could not accommodate the proposed use. But dealing with the application is the first part, and in closing, the second part is enforcement. The municipality needs to enforce its decision. The third part is cleaning up what's been done to this land for the past 2 years. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I have Ryan Arts.
First, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank you, Honorable Mayor and Council and staff for your service to our community. I am Ryan Arts. I live across the road and one house down from the applicant. And I've known Mike Ferrari, who is, I believe, the son of the applicant and operator of Ferrari Hydrovac since we were in high school together. And I have to say that I greatly respect his work ethic and his ambition in growing a business from nothing to a successful business that he's operating today. And he's been, pushing the rules for a long time. And in fact, he once accused me of calling the MOE on him, which I did not, but it gave me some solace that, hey, the authorities were paying attention and that he would be, maintain compliance. When this application came forward, it was the first time I really looked into more detail into Mike's activities, and it has become obvious to me that his ambition has turned into a disregard for the community that he lives in. And I think that his planner is not completely forthcoming in some of the comments that he's made. I looked at the ECA that they have. That ECA is conditional on having, or as an operational requirement, that he has the proper zoned property. The ECA permits him to haul hazardous waste as well. So as much as he's saying they're not waste, the
they have approval to haul hazardous waste, and I think that like historic actions and disregard for the regulations would lead us to have probable concern about continued violations of that. The definition of waste, yes, comes from the MOE in the construction industry, and I know that those hydrovac sleighs rarely will pass the analytical results required for agricultural table one, agricultural table one criteria or residential table one criteria. And there's been a lot of that soil brought to the site. So it also doesn't permit discharge or industrial runoff, which while looking at it much closer has become obviously concerning for my own family, who are fifth generation on our farm. That runoff with soil that I know is highly unlikely to be suitable for residential land is running off towards two municipal drains that are adjacent to the property. One of them running right under the property. It's actually looks like it's collapsing into the road, which I guess I'll get to in a second. And the flow route is directly towards my well and many other wells in the area. So I do have a serious concern about the health of our community and the agricultural lands from this industrial use. And hydrovac slurry is considered an industrial waste. That is the definition of it. I guess going to the Half Load Road, I also know that those hydrovac trucks are not like every other commercial truck. They are very heavy, even when empty. And when they're empty, they would not be able to run on a half load road during half load season. And I know from my wife kind of freaking out at me yesterday because one of these trucks, she felt straight off the road that these trucks are using the road during half load season. I just think it would be a very dangerous precedent to set by this application right now. I think it would be a great opportunity for many other business people to follow suit and do something similar. I think industrial activity belongs on industrial land. I think what Mike is trying to do makes a lot of sense, but not in this location. It's not appropriate in this location. He's already done well beyond what should be allowed in this location. So I urge you to reject the application and ensure the property is brought into compliance with existing regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Susan McNabb.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. I'm Susan McNabb. I live at 8051 Dicker Drive at the southwest corner with Cook Road. My neighbors, Janet and Ryan, have brought your attention to many of my own concerns, but I'd like to tell you about some of my personal experiences over the past 3 years. They help to illustrate the disrespect, the disregard for rules, regs, bylaws shown to neighbors, to the agricultural community, and to Middlesex Centre and provincial governments. Thank you. Directly across the road from me at 8044 Decker Drive, on the northwest corner of Decker and Cook, is now the home of Michael Ferrari and his family. The foundation of the new house was built above the grade of the surrounding ground level and was subsequently infilled with dirt from hundreds of dump trucks, loads of dirt from many locations. New regulations require that the dirt from one property to the other be assessed. Was this done? We don't know. A new access to the property was constructed from Cook Road, which buried a catch basin on the west side of Cook Road. Decker Drive between Cook Road and Colonel Talbot was repaired and then rebuilt by the City of London. not our taxpayer money, but a huge inconvenience to the residents of the area. Berms have been built around this residential property. To serve what purpose? They're huge. They're far beyond landscaping, dirt from many locations by many contractors, including from 5606 West Delbourne. This seems to be an income stream only from dumping fees. Were assessments carried out on any of the dirt? In November of 2023, my property, the ditches on the north and south side of Decker and along Cook Road were flooded. Township repairs included digging ditches, replacing the drain under Decker Drive, which had begun to collapse, probably from the weight of the dump trucks. All because of the blockage of water flow from the interruption of the land and the water table. This expense was to the taxpayers of Middlesex Centre, to us. I was told they could not expense it to the landowner at 8044 Decker Drive. Their own pond flooded, so they bored or had someone bore a horizontal drain under the base of the berm and drained it right into the municipal drain. After another one of my complaints to the township, it was eventually capped. It's another example of the disregard of rules, regs, and bylaws. They have exhibited a disregard and a disrespect of the neighbors, the agricultural community, and of West Delbourne. This is what we can expect on West Delbourne. After several calls to the MOE over the past 2 years, I have finally spoken to them. I have an event number, and that has been passed on to the planner. And you, as councillors, have been invited to call if you wish to talk to the officer who is in charge of the testing and the maintenance of these two properties. I've been assured that they will be monitoring both properties diligently. I respectfully request that as our planner, Marion Francis, has recommended that this application be denied. Thank you.
And thank you. Do we have anyone virtually? No. Sophie? Is there any other member who's attending tonight in the public who'd like to speak? If you come forward and state your name and address, and the same 5-minute rule applies. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Lily, and myself and my husband and my 2 children live on a small farm on West Delbourne, about less than a kilometer from the proposed property.
If you could state your full name and your address.
Lily Fowler, 5922 West Delbourne.
Okay, thank you.
Like many of us here tonight, we're frustrated and concerned about the activities taking place at 5606 West Delbourne and their additional property at the corner of Decker Drive and Cook Road. We implore council to not only refuse this application, but also ask that you take strong action to enforce such a refusal. Require that the property be subjected to the appropriate environmental testing and cleanup measures. It seems evident through the written and verbal submissions provided to date that 5606 West Delbourne is operating as an industrial waste dumping facility against policies and zoning regulations and without any proper tracking, storage, or disposal measures in place. In addition to what has already been identified by others about what it's like living near this business, the impacts on our family include our concern with a high likelihood of contamination to our well water and water system, ongoing heavy truck traffic, loud machinery operating almost constantly, foul odors from the location, flooding in a multitude of areas, significant and ongoing damage, road safety concerns, unsightly extensive berms, and having a daughter no longer feel comfortable to ride a horse down the road to meet up with her friends as she always had, as the sounds of heavy machinery and the stream of giant trucks rushing by have made it unsafe for her to do so. Now, I will admit that I'm not a regulation, compliance, or zoning expert, but through the knowledge of those who are, investigation has clearly supported that this location is being operated in complete violation of the rules. It seems the applicant has taken advantage of loopholes and a serious lack of oversight to further their agenda at the expense of the integrity of zoning regulations and numerous local residents like us. So although I could go on about the substantial impact this business is having on our lives, I'm choosing to focus on what happens going forward. Local residents put this operation on the municipality's radar years ago. We called, we emailed, we asked for support. However, the operation has been quick to continue to not only operate, but expand. We are well aware of what is being dumped on this property, as you should be too. And we're also aware that it has continued to operate to this day without oversight. Even a quick glance at the company's social media page shows evidence of services taking place on flooded industrial properties, in yards. Even a post with the caption, "We're back at the pollution plant." And it's all pretty obvious where this material is being disposed of. Policies in place are designed to protect, and none of the rules and policies in place that are designed to protect against this kind of degradation of agricultural property have been applied or enforced. This has put us at significant risk of contamination to our land and water and virtually ruining the enjoyment of our properties. I will go back to my statement that I am no expert in the area of zoning regulations, but as the municipality responsible for this area, you are supposed to be that expert and you are granted the power to enforce the rules. We should be able to count on that diligence from you. So in closing, we're asking council to take a stand to restore the integrity and peace to our agricultural community. By refusing this application, just as urgently, we're here to ask for continued enforcement and demand the cleanup of the incredible destruction that has occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there, I thought I saw another hand back there. Okay, if that's it from the public, it's council's turn. Who would like to start off the questions? Councillor Bruce, go ahead.
Not so much questions, but some comments. I wasn't aware this was even going on. I live in Delaware. This is out there. So I took a ride based on the fact that this official plan amendment was coming before council, and then people started to write to me about what was going on there. So for those of you that haven't seen it, it is truly an industrial site. There's tons of berming, there's ponds, I think, in a number of places. I don't know what Michael Ferrari is doing to his property up on Decker, but it appears to be another ponding situation with berms. I could stand corrected on that. West Elborn is not geared to handling this heavy traffic up and down that road, plus the safety aspects of it. And it's already been said, our planner wrote a very good report, voluminous, up to 18 pages covering this off. But the key element here is the applicant has had no inclination to ask permission before now. And irrespective of what their planner says, that it could be just a trivial situation, I don't think it is. I don't know, and I don't know if anybody can answer. I don't know who else is dumping stuff in there, whether it's just them or is it others. It's definitely not a secondary business to farming. The farm is very small. This is the primary use. It is an industrial use, should not be here. Key point is you also need, or the applicant was supposed to get a second permit related to sewage and waste soil disposal processing transfer before they can dump stuff on the property, but they went ahead and continued to dump stuff on the property without the proper approval. It's a nightmare for checking this stuff out after the MECP says they're going to do it, but I don't know. I've seen this stuff in action and I know what they do. If you've seen poles, they inject water and suck the dirt out. The pole can be lifted. It's supposed to all be tested. Okay, it might be. But my take on this is there's no reason to approve this OPA. And I don't know if we can get the business to shut down, but it should not be allowed to continue in its present form. They just gone ahead and done it, and I don't think it's legal. That's my opinion.
Councillor Case?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, I just have something to say as well. I agree that I think Marion had a great report, and I think that the speakers all made very, very good points. And I think that it is a real unknown of what are the possible impacts. I think that we do have to do everything that we can to protect our farmland and also the surrounding area of the farmlands. And the whole rural community, the roadway, all of those things. And, you know, I know that I'm sure it's a much needed business, but I think that it really does belong on a true industrial site, not in a rural community that's supposed to be farm property. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, in that case, I will now consider motions. That one that is before us is that the official plan amendment number 67 filed by Oakview Land Use Planning on behalf of Barbara Ferrari and Gabrielle Ferrari for the land legally described as concession, Gore Road North, Part Lot 14, former Township of Delaware and known as 5606 West Elborn, Municipality of Middlesex Center, be refused. Do I have a mover? Councillor Burrs, Deputy Mayor Brennan. I'll call the vote. All in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Okay. There are a number of people here. I don't know who wants to stick around, but if we just take a minute or two, if you'd like to leave, feel free to collect your things and make your way out the door, and we'll hang on for a moment before we take the next item. Okay, thank you for your patience. We're on item 8.2, which is an application zoning bylaw amendment for 13206 Ilderton Road, filed by Rick Knudsen on behalf of RBA 17 Holdings, Inc. And Marion is going to present the planning report for this file as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you to council. So the purpose of this report is to provide council with information with regarding a zoning bylaw amendment application, ZBA 3/2025, for a property at 13206 Ilderton Road. So the purpose of this application is to rezone the property from urban residential first density to a village commercial exception zone. The site-specific exceptions would address the minimum lot area of 0.19 acres, a minimum side yard setback of 3 meters abutting a residential zone, a minimum driveway width of 5.3 meters, and a maximum density of 59.7 units per hectare. The effect of this application would permit the construction of a new 3-story mixed-use building. Specifically, the development proposes 2 commercial units on the main floor, which would consume approximately 1,060 square feet, 2 residential units on the second floor, which are just 1,444 square feet, and then 2 residential units on the third floor with the same square footage of 1,044 square feet. Entrances to the commercial spaces are located on the front and rear of this building, while the entrances to the residential units are located in the side yards and through 2 separate interior staircases. The driveway is proposed to be moved further west from its current location, and it extends back to a parking area with 9 parking spaces, and this would serve the residential units as well as the commercial uses on the property. And a detailed site plan is attached to the staff report that was provided by the applicant. So again, this property is approximately 0.19 acres in area. It's located on the north side of Ilderton Road and west of King Street. The land has been used for residential uses for over 100 years and abuts low-density residential uses. A commercial or light industrial use is located immediately to the north, and a mix of commercial and residential uses exist along the main street of Ilderton Road. So this land is located within the settlement area according to Middlesex County's official plan and designated village center within Middlesex Center's official plan. Staff reviewed the application against all relevant policies from the county and from the Middlesex Center official plan and are generally supportive of this mixed-use type of development, especially along the main corridors and settlement areas. Notice of this application was circulated to area residents, agencies, and staff. And at the time of writing my staff report, I did not receive any comments from the public. Public Works and Engineering had expressed concerns with the proposed reduction in the driveway width and prefer that it be maintained to 6 meters. The proponent would also need to ensure that drainage patterns are not impacted and then full stormwater management controls are provided on site. And additional details would be provided through the required site plan application that would follow. The county engineer also reviewed this application and identified that land dedication would be required for road widening purposes. However, they do express some concern with the 0 meter setback from the front lot line and would prefer to see at least 1 meter setback. So again, planning staff are generally satisfied with this proposal and appreciate the inclusion of commercial space within this building design. However, we just draw attention to a few technical details to ensure that the development can function on site, including that 5.3 meter driveway width, the lack of waste and recycling storage on site, as well as that impact on parking spaces and the lack of amenity area for residents. We have expressed these concerns to the proponent, and they have taken that feedback back and propose a revised plan, but they also wanted to hear from any area residents and council before presenting a new an improved plan, I guess, for council. So again, this purpose of this report is to provide council the information and to solicit feedback, and I think you'll be happy to answer any questions.
And thank you for that report, Marion. Now Rick Knudsen, the agent, is in attendance to comment on the application. Oh, he's virtual. Okay. There you are. Okay. We have you on screen. I'm going to turn off my my microphone. So when you're ready, go ahead and make your presentation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening. you and council and staff. I appreciate Marion's report and I take no issue with it. As she indicated, there were a number of technical matters that we're in the process of reviewing at this point in time. And I expect to have some minor modifications to our proposal back to Marion in short order. I don't know whether it's days or a week or so, but in that timeframe. The matters that were raised are, I believe, fairly easy to deal with, and look forward to having a discussion with Marion when we have the revised plan. Our building designer has been incredibly busy, and that's where the holdup has been. But I'm here most interested in any comments from the public. I know our client has gone out on a personal outreach program with all of the neighbors to get their comments, and I don't believe there are any concerns at this point in time. But I wait to hear what you hear. Thank you for that. Those are the extent of my comments.
Very well, thank you kindly. So are the members of the public, does anyone here wish to speak? You are allowed to come forward, 5 minutes, make comments, remarks. Yeah. Okay. If you would please state your name and address for the record, the clerk will make note of those.
Hey, I'm Glenn with 2 N's, Scarborough, and I'm 13178 Illerton Road. And the property just west of what we're talking about tonight is my sister's. And the only 2 concerns we have is the parking, with the traffic and the parking. And then the second one, will there be a fence between that property and my sister's property? Because as you know, this winter was a bugger, and we don't want the driveway full with snow every day, having it pushed over. So that's our 2 concerns.
Short and sweet. Thank you kindly. I think they'll be duly noted. Is there anyone else? No. If you'd like to speak, come forward and you'll have to push the purple button. It is on. Okay, I'll turn mine off and
it's already lit up.
Yes.
I'm Bob Manning from 13210 Illerton Road. This property that you're talking about, we used to own it. My only concern is the poor old big old maple tree out front. It's 102 years old, and I would like to see the tree kind of move down because it is half rotten. So if he would, I think he's willing to take the tree down. We've talked about it. I think he's willing to take the tree down if council will let him do it, because someday it's going to fall down and it won't be very good shape. That's my only concern. He can go ahead and do whatever he wants with it, the rest of it. Thank you.
And thank you for taking time to comment. Is there anyone else? No? It's on the right of way? Yeah. Okay. Okay, we're going to move forward then. No one, so next up, council questions. I'll start with Councillor Arts and then we'll go around the other side. Go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor. I'm not for sure if this property and the one behind it are still owned by the same owner. But the one out back, they've let it become a wreckage. I don't know. It's a mess. So if this gets built, these people are going to like to see a bit of cleanliness behind them. So I kind of like to tie this into maybe getting that cleaned up and stay cleaned up. Thank you.
Does anyone on my right still want to comment? No? Okay. Councillor Burrs and then Councillor Cates, okay?
They were asking for comments. When I read this and I listened to stuff, if you read the PWE director, the driveway on the side isn't wide enough and there's not enough parking in the back. To me, it seems like the building is too big for the site and has to be brought down. That's my only comment.
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to comment as well. I know there's some really tight numbers here, which Marion has mentioned. But I just wanted to say that I really like the concept of the commercial downstairs and the apartments upstairs for the main street in the middle of the town. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. If there are no more questions, then we do have a motion before us, and that is that report PLA 2025 for the purposes of zoning bylaw amendment application filed by Rick Knudsen on behalf of RBA 17 Holdings, Inc. to rezone the lands from urban residential first density to a new site-specific village commercial zone for the land known municipally as 13206 Ilden Road, Municipality of Middlesex Center, be received for information. Like a mover, please. Councillor Shipley and Councillor Arts, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. Okay, the next item is a zoning bylaw amendment for 11065 Sinclair Drive, filed by Mary Ellen Bloomfield on behalf of Keith William Bloomfield. And Marion, this is your report again, if you'd like to take it away.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to provide a recommendation to council with regard to file ZBA 23-2024 for the property at 11065 Sinclair Drive. The applicant proposes to rezone the the severed parcel to surplus residence zone and the retained parcel to the agricultural exception, no residence zone for the A3 zone. And this is in order to fulfill a condition of consent from file B 2024. So planning staff reviewed all relevant policies and are satisfied with the application and that it is consistent with the PPS, county, and local official plans. As a result, planning staff recommend approval.
And thank you for the report. Is there anyone who would, is there an agent or anyone who wants to speak to us? Coming in? No? Okay. In that case, any public? No. Council, questions, comments? Well, moving right along. We do have a motion before us, and that is that the zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 23, number 23, 2024, filed by Mary Ellen Bloomfield on behalf of Keith William Bloomfield to rezone the lands known as 11065 Sinclair Drive from agricultural A1 zone to surplus residential zone and agricultural no residences A3 zone for the severed and retained lands of consent. Application B22, 2024 be approved. Mover, please. And Deputy Mayor Brennan and Councillor Burrs, all in favor? That is carried. Okay, and we have, I think this is the last item, an application for consent for 14782 16 Mile Road, filed by Graham Monk, and Dan Fitzgerald is going to present that report.
Through the chair, thanks, Madam Mayor, members of council. So the purpose and effect of item 8.4 on the agenda tonight is a concurrent consent as well as zoning bylaw amendment for a property that's located at 14782 16 Mile Road. The consent application is a request to amend lot boundaries for two existing agricultural parcels. The application does seek to remove a 9-acre portion of agriculturally farmed land from the existing 18 approximate acre parcel, which would be consolidated in the same name and title as the adjacent farmed parcel. The retained lands would be amended to approximately 2.27 acres and maintain the existing residence, accessory building, access, as well as the associated private services. In order to accommodate the reduction in the farm parcel size, the applicant has also submitted a concurrent zoning bylaw amendment. As proposed, the retained parcel would be rezoned to a surplus residence zone to reflect the intended residential use of the site. The effect, again, would be to accommodate the proposed transfer of the agricultural lands from the small farm parcel to the larger abutting farm parcel. So the subject lands are designated agricultural in Middlesex County's official plan as well as Middlesex Center's official plan, and both parcels are zoned the agricultural A1 zone. The larger farm parcel would receive the land is currently only farmland that is actively farmed, while the proposed retained parcel includes the residence, accessory building, private services access, as well as a portion of farmed land. The lands are generally surrounded by agricultural parcels on all sides that are used for crop production. This application was circulated as per requirements of the Planning Act. We did not receive any comments from the public. We did receive comments from staff, and they are included in the planning report. As well, they have incorporated into recommended conditions for the consent application. I have reviewed the proposal against the provincial planning statement, Middlesex County's official plan, as well as Middlesex Center's official plan. All documents seek to protect farmland as a finite resource within our jurisdiction. More specifically, the municipal official plan does encourage farm lot consolidation where possible to create larger farm tracts of land. Therefore, staff do support the boundary adjustment to shift the lands used for crop production to the larger neighboring farm parcel. As a note, in reviewing the proposal, planning staff would state that the proposed severance is not a farm surplus dwelling severance. As such, the applicable official plan policies are not necessarily applicable to our review in this case. However, we do note that the requirements to rezone a surplus residence zone is based on the resulting lot size as well as the proposed use of the land. So as council may recall, during the housekeeping amendment to the municipality's official plan, which was passed by council, not yet in force and effect, did remove the A2 or the undersized agricultural parcel size zone. So to limit the ability of the use of the retained lands for agricultural purposes, staff do feel that it is appropriate to rezone the lands to a surplus residence zone, which does recognize that reduced size as well as the use of the property. So not technically a surplus residence severance, but still we want to recognize it as such so that we can limit the potential use of that particular property. So as recommended in the planning report, staff are supportive of the boundary adjustment and do recommend approval subject to the consent conditions, as well as the requested rezoning to surplus residence. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions.
And thank you for that report. Does anyone in the public wish to speak to this? No. Okay. I'd like to Councilor Cates, if you'd like to start. Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan. I'm having technical difficulties here, so bear with me. I just want to make sure we're on item 8.4. It says Marion, but you did it. Is that correct? Okay. So I can't call this up, okay? It's not working right, but I had made notes before. So can you please, so when I look at the picture, it looks like a farm severance. It mentions a farm severance, but I believe I read that you will allow a house on the newly severed property, and this the yellow lined part, but it's very large. Like it's a few acres. Normally we wouldn't allow this size, and we'd probably be having that hole where the zig is, it would be cut off, and that barn would have to remain with the other or tore down. So I think we have 9 acres and 2.27. So how are we now getting 2 houses and larger property instead of around our 1 acre? And what boundary is being adjusted when this is a severance and you're creating the area? How are you adjusting a boundary? Those are some of my questions. Thank you.
Yeah, so through the chair, so maybe more so a point of clarification for council. So we use it's not technically a severance in this particular case. So it's a consent for a boundary adjustment, which is different than a severance. So when we talk about severance, we talk about lot creation. In this particular instance, we're not creating a lot. We're just moving the boundaries of existing parcels. So in this case, the boundary of the lands that's shown in red on the location map would be consolidated with the larger farm parcel to the west. The yellow portion of lands, which is shown on the lands, so the lot would just basically be reduced to only include the house as well as the surrounding accessory building, the access and the services that are available. So it's not a severance. It's a boundary adjustment where we're moving property lines to consolidate the farm parcel, the actively farmed land with the adjacent farm parcel, and just reduce the lot size to just that of the house.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. But it says right in the motion, in order to sever a farm parcel.
Yeah, so through the chair, we say sever for the purpose of moving the property lines, but it does say sever for boundary adjustment purposes, I believe. For lot, let me just look. Yeah, so it says in order to sever a farm parcel for lot addition purposes.
Any other questions or comments? No, I just want to be clear. So I think I had something else in my mind. So the 3.64 hectares belongs to who? Oh, sorry. I'm asking whether the 3.6 is the 3.64 coming together with the property to the left in the diagram, and it's all one. That is existing lot line. It's disappearing now. We have a 0.918 residents and we have 14,774 residents. And I don't know who owns which or neither, or could you just clarify that as well then?
Yeah, so through the chair, that's correct. So the red portion of land on the location map is transferred and consolidated with the lands to the left, or to the west in this case.
3.64 then.
That's correct. The 3.64 hectares.
Yeah.
Which is the red area on that location map, gets transferred over to the larger farm parcel to the.
Oh, sorry. So that 0.9 is independent on its own, no farmland whatsoever.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. The residence is the 0.918. So the yellow and red go together. So it's not that the yellow is going to the other and the red is solo, and the red and the yellow are together for a total of 4.558, I guess, 68.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct. So currently, right now, the entirety of the property is the red and the yellow chunk. That property is going to be reduced to just the yellow chunk, and the lands that are red are transferred over to the larger agricultural parcel. So there's no actual new lot being created. It's just moving the property boundaries. I hope that's clear.
Oh, sorry. So the red now is part of the one immediately to the left of the red boundary.
Through the chair, through the consent application for the boundary adjustment, yes, that's correct. The red portion gets transferred over to that larger agricultural parcel.
Okay.
So it all becomes one large agricultural lot.
So 14,774 doesn't have a farm at all at this point. Well, that's what I'm going to be clear on. Then, in other words, 3.64 and whatever size, all of the part that doesn't have a color around it, that's part of the big farm, those will have holding symbols, no houses on them.
So through the chair, I'm just looking at the map right now. I see the confusion. So 14,774 is currently a separate lot in and of itself. So that's a separate lot that exists there already.
Okay.
14,732 would become the 0.93 hectare surplus residence property. The remaining of the lands, which is the red boundary, the 3.76 hectares, 67 hectares, sorry, is then transferred over to the farm parcel, the larger farm parcel to the west.
Okay.
So there's
I'm
no,
clear
the
now.
net result is there's no additional residence being constructed
No.
throughout the entirety of the process.
And there won't be, yeah, okay. It has a house on it. If they down the road wanted to do a severance, they'd have to meet the requirements under a severance. So 14,782 is a bigger farm now. Oh, no, sorry, 0.918 is part of that. 3.64 is on its own. But
staying on your slide rest.
Yeah, we know what 3.64 is, and 9.18. 0.918 is merging with
How much? I got it backwards again now.
So through the chair, I think you have it backwards. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
0.364 merges with the property to the west, which is that larger 87.3 acre farm parcel. And then 14,723 is that remnant 0.918 hectare parcel. So you're just basically the current parcel is that essentially 4.5 acre or hectare parcel, which then gets reduced to 0.918. So if you can see the map up on the screen, the current farm parcel includes the yellow and the red for this particular property, but the boundary adjustment removes the red portion and consolidates it with the land directly to the west. And then what's left is just the yellow portion with the house on it. So no new lots are being created, just moving property lines.
Our map, the red, the 0.918 is red and 3.64 is the yellow. So that's.
Yeah.
You're switching those colors.
I see the
on-
confusion now.
Oh, heaven's sake.
Our location map has the colors reversed, so I can see your confusion.
It's backwards here. But, go ahead, Councillor Kate, sorry, I'll deal with my mess in my head. Thank you. Okay, yeah, his is reversed, mine's not. So I get it. The red is going to the farm on the left. The yellow, well, the big one is going to the big one beside it. And then the small L-shaped one is going to be on its own. So, yeah. Yeah, so what I want to know, two things I want to know. One, I swear I read in here that the big property can have a house built on it. There's no hold symbol and it could have a house. My other question is this a way around the actual word severance to call it a boundary adjustment? How did we slide this in when everything else has been a severance?
Yeah, so through the chair, to answer the first question, can they build a house? The existing farm parcel to the west, which the red portion, the yellow, portion of land would be consolidated into, does not currently have an agricultural residence on it. It's just farmland. So they do still maintain permission through the A1 zone to be able to construct a residence. That permission's already there. This would not change that. It's just taking the portion of land and adding it to it. And the intent there is that the land is protected for agricultural uses, as opposed to this property, changing hands, someone purchasing it, not using the farmland for agricultural purposes, and instead just building a large residence on the land. So that's really what our concern is at the end of the day. The applicant, in this case, worked with the existing landowners that saw an opportunity to protect the farmland and said, hey, instead of, selling off the entirety of the property, would you consider transferring that farmland to my existing farm operation? And then you just have the house consolidated on one small farm or housing parcel. How it's different from a surplus dwelling severance is that we're not creating a lot. There's 2 lots right now. There will still be 2 lots at the end of the day. It's just moving one portion to the adjacent lot and reducing the size of the existing, where the existing house is.
Go ahead, Councillor. Thank you. One more. I get it, but so why does it get to be 2.27 acres instead of the 1? I get he asked, can I move these boundaries? Why wasn't it said, well, it'll have to be small?
Yeah, so through the chair, that's what the applicant had requested, but it's certainly within the purview of council to, recommend deferral and have staff go back and have that conversation with them to see if there is a possibility to reduce. But as it stands right now, that was what was requested by the applicant.
I take your point. So the line could have been straight between, I mean, lot 14782, which is my yellow, your red, could be made a regular shape because the field to the, I guess, west could extend past that bush and right up to the, where the, I guess, the driveway and the farm buildings up to that edge, that could be squared off. Okay, that's up to council though, that, yeah. Do you wish to make a motion or amend or request to have a conversation? Okay, if there is no other question, we do have a motion before us. You could choose not to vote for it. We can move ahead? Okay, so we do have a motion before us, and that is, where is that item? Oops, I have to turn the page. It's a very long motion. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's in front of everyone. If I could have a mover and a seconder for that, Councillor Burrs and Councillor Coles, thank you. All in favor? Anyone opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. That was. Okay. That's the last planning item, and we did, sorry. Oh, yes, sorry, we have to rise. I forgot. Where did that go? Rise out of. Where is it? Oh, it's got mixed up. Okay, there it is. Okay, sorry. I was on the wrong page because I was looking at too many at once. Okay, so no, that was the last. So we're done with the public meetings. We have a motion to rise from that, and it is that the public meeting adjourn at 7:44 p.m. and council resume the regular meeting. Councillor Coles and Councillor Cates, thank you. All in favor? And that's carried. There are no notices of motion. We do have a couple of correspondence items. Is there anything here anyone wants to comment on? Nope. Okay, so we need a motion that correspondence items 11.1 through 11.3 be received as information. I have Councillor Cates and Burrs. Thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. And Deputy Mayor Brennan will give us an update on the County Council meeting held on April 9th.
No, yesterday.
Yeah, it's 20, whatever today.
First, we received a report from Strathmere Lodge on the clinical connect and security report. And it's a fairly lengthy report, and it was involving personal health records of people at the lodge and who that can be shared with and how it can be shared when they leave the lodge, if they go to the hospital, how that can all be shared. So it was a fairly lengthy report. Our tax ratio for farmland in Middlesex County remains at 0.25. We receive information from a lot of other counties. Some were higher, some were lower. The average is 0.24, so we're pretty close to where we are there. The payment for the county levy for Middlesex Center is remaining the same as 2024. Kathy Burkhart Justin, the mayor of Luke and Vidal, was appointed to sit on the board of the Southwest Community Transit Committee. So she'll be looking and sitting on that. We're in the process of, the county is in the process of hiring a executive search company to look for a new CAO for the county. We should be securing that and passing a motion which firm's going to get that next Tuesday. And then that'll be progressing, looking for a new CEO for the county. We had quite a presentation on homeless prevention program funding and emergency shelters that the county does have. A motel out on 22 Highway, just by 81 Highway. They have some beds there. They have approximately 628,000 this past year for supportive housing for people that require someplace to go for a night or for a longer period of time. I think you can go up for a month at this motel. They helped 62 families last year in 2024 that needed help with housing in the county. So it might not be as prevalent as in the city, but it is in the county. Our city county liaison committee met after something. They haven't met for quite a while, but they met recently. Councillor, our Mayor DeVete is on that committee. The mayor from Strathroy Caradoc, Colin Grantham was on that committee, and the current warden, Brian Robb, was on that committee. They discussed a number of topics, including annexation and ring roads, if you want to call it that. But those things were discussed, and they'll be ongoing for a while. They're going to meet more often than what they have. Agriculture in Ontario, there's 48,346 farms, 11.77 million acres of farmland, cropland, 9.05 million acres of cropland, and 1.26 million acres of woodland and wetlands in the province. So there is significant woodlands within the province. The Warden's Golf Tournament this year will happen on June the 17th at Caradoc Sands Golf Club, with funds going to Craigwell Gardens this year. So, and that's the extent of the report.
Thank you for that update. Any questions on that? Okay, I don't see any hands. And earlier this evening, we were in closed session, and we had reporting on 2 items. We received an update on a property matter, and we gave direction to staff with respect to a potential negotiation. So that was it for that one. And now all we have left is if there's any other business councillors want to raise. Nothing. In that case, our bylaws, the motion before us is that the bylaws 2025 number 30 through 34 be adopted as printed. If I could have a mover, please. Councillor, all 3 hands went up. Sorry. I'm going to go with Councillor Shipley and Councillor Coles. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And now we need a motion to adjourn at 7:15. They're fine. Wait, Deputy has a comment before we close. Okay, the CEO is going to introduce our new clerk. This is the last, last meeting for our deputy clerk. So
I just want to thank Megan Emmermans for helping us out through the transition. Our deputy clerk has done a fantastic job, so we just want to applaud her and all the work she's done for us.
Yay!
Yes. And in the back observing this evening's council meeting is Brianna Hammer, and she joined us the last couple of weeks. So she'll be resuming the chair of the clerk for our next meeting, and they're going forward. So we're excited to have Brianna join the team, and good things are going to happen with our clerks area.
Welcome. Okay, right. Leave the good news, the best news to the end of the meeting. Okay, and in that case, the only thing that remains tonight is the motion for adjournment, and that is that council for the municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns our April 23rd, 2025 meeting at 7:51. Councillor Burns, Councillor Cates, thank you. All in favor? And that is carried. And then we'll see you again.